this is Angela Hutchings. I am the Reading Pals coordinator at United Way, and I'm going to be going through this training with you. I coordinate the Alachua County Reading Pals, so let's go ahead and get started. So United Way, I want to talk to you a little bit about United Way. Reading Pals runs through United Way, and we focus on 4 different areas: health, income, education, and immediate needs. And we focus on these 2 areas and try to help in these areas in 2 different ways. One, we have grant-funded initiatives, so we apply for grants in order to have these programs funded. And then we also fund agency programs as well. So our grant-funded initiatives, Reading Pals is one of them. And we also have Check and Connect, which is a dropout prevention program for high schoolers. We have VITA, Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, which helps people get their taxes done for free. And we have our Seal and Smile Dental Sealant program that allows students to get free dental care during the school day to help prevent tooth decay and prevent unneeded absences due to tooth pain. And we also fund agency programs. So most people think that United Way is only a fundraising agency. So this would be part of that. So we fund different programs at these different agencies, but these aren't all the agencies. We have a lot more. These are only a few. And so we have we provide funding for different programs at Girls Place, at Boys and Girls Clubs, and things like that. Now, a little bit about Reading Pals and our grant. We are funded by Carol and Barney Barnett, and Carol is the daughter of the founder of Publix, so she and her husband decided to donate $3 million to help fund 10 of these Reading Pals initiatives at different United Way agencies. And so through the funding that she and her husband provide, we're able to get a Vista, AmeriCorps Vista, and provide their salary as well as my salary. All the books and materials we buy, marketing materials and incentives for students, and we also are able to do family literacy events where we invite families and parents to become engaged in their child's literacy. We also do volunteer appreciation events, which you guys will be able to participate in if you choose. So all of these things are funded through Carol and Barney through that grant, but there are other things that we require to run Reading Pals, and so anything that isn't taken from the grant is taken from United Way. And United Way runs, any money that we get comes from donors. We also have different partners, the Alachua County Public Schools, Children's Movement of Florida, our AmeriCorps Vista, and the Women's Leadership Council at United Way. So let's talk a little bit about Reading Pals Goals. So our first goal is to encourage a child's interest in reading. And we want to do that by generating enthusiasm for books and reading. And a lot of times our kids find reading to be really difficult, and so they really don't have any enthusiasm for reading. They're really apprehensive about reading. We want to generate enthusiasm and overcome this reading apprehension by giving them the necessary tools they need and to make them comfortable reading. We also want to encourage them to take books home and read at home. So our program is designed to allow the child to take home a copy of each book that they read with you, so that they have the access to books at home. We want them to be building listening, comprehension, and vocabulary skills, and we think that by working with someone one-on-one on these 3 areas, will help build that, and also increasing attention span and concentration. A lot of our kids do suffer from ADHD, and if they're not diagnosed, they definitely have issues with attention span and concentration. And a lot of times this is the reason why they have trouble reading, because they can't sit still for long enough, and they get bored. So we think that by giving them more opportunity with a patient adult, this will help increase their attention span and concentration. We also want to expand the child's opportunities for success. So by giving the child a positive role model, a reading mentor, that would be you, we hope that this will build their opportunity for success and help them articulate their thoughts, being exposed to new information and experiences by being with you once a week. Enhance their imagination and insight and independent thinking, which is a really important part of reading, imagination and thinking on your own. And also building self-confidence and self-esteem. Having someone rooting for them and really encouraging them to do their best will help them with their self-esteem and confidence, especially when it comes to being a poor reader, being able to read out loud in front of their peers. We also want to make sure our volunteers are happy, feeling like they are spending their volunteer time doing something meaningful. So, matching volunteers with one child and spending one-on-one time together not only helps the child, but also allows the volunteer to kind of get close to the student and build a bonding kind of relationship. And we'd like to create links between schools and organizations. So, we work at the Boys and Girls Clubs, we work in the public schools, and so kind of linking our community together really makes it feel like, and actually is, very meaningful. We also only require a minimal volunteer preparation and time commitment. Our time commitment is just an hour a week, and although it is a lengthy time commitment from now until the end of the school year, really this is kind of the only training you're going to be getting. We try to make things as flexible as possible for you and work with you. So let's talk a little bit about who we serve. Who are these kids that we are allowing to be in the program and seeking out? So our children, the students that we work with, are from families who are in poverty, who are at or below the poverty line usually. So a little background information about Alachua County. 1 in 4 children in Alachua County live at or below the poverty line. About 23% of families live under the poverty line. And almost half of the students in Alachua County qualify for free or reduced lunch, and about 43% of third graders in Alachua County did not pass the reading FCAT in 2013. That means that 43% of third graders are not at third grade level in reading. And about 18% of the third graders last year actually did not get to were not promoted to the 4th grade, and so 18% of kids had to stay back in 3rd grade because they weren't proficient in reading. Here's a list of our locations, but also some information about the locations that we're in this year. Idlewild Elementary has 81% of their student body who qualify for free or reduced lunch, and 60% of their third graders failed the reading FCAT. At Terwilliger Elementary, 80% qualified for free or reduced lunch, and 57 of their third graders failed the reading FCAT. So these are really high need schools, their whole student body. Stephen Foster Elementary and Norton are doing a little bit better than the top two, but they still have a selection of students that could really use our help. So Stephen Foster Elementary has about 60% of their student body on free or reduced lunch, and about 35% of them, the third graders, failed the reading FCAT. Norton is pretty similar. 53% qualify for free or reduced lunch, and 35% of them also failed the reading FCAT. Caring and Sharing Learning School is is a charter school that we work in, and they seem like, according to these statistics, to be the most needy out of all the schools we work in. So almost 90% of their whole student body qualify for free or reduced lunch. So only 10% of them aren't on free or reduced lunch, and 62% of their whole student body failed the reading FCAT last year. That is a lot. That's a lot of kids who failed the reading FCAT. Woodland Park Boys and Girls Club and Northwest Boys and Girls Club are two other sites that we work in, and all the kids there come from different schools, but a lot of them do attend the schools that we mentioned before. So now let's talk about your site support, and then we'll talk about who those people are. So your on-site support are your volunteer coordinators. Now, your volunteer coordinators are going to be responsible for the daily operation of the ReadingPals program. They are responsible for handling scheduling, cancellations, and enforcing all the program policies and guidelines. So let's see who those people are. At Norton Elementary, we have Jaquela Montalvo. Idlewild Elementary, we have Salsa Bennett. And Stephen Foster Elementary, we have Rosanna Saw. Now, these three locations and these three people are dedicated ReadingPals staff members who are there just for you, and they're there to make sure everything's running smoothly. Now, these next ones, Northwest Boys and Girls Club, Woodland Park Boys and Girls Club, and Caring and Sharing Learning School, these three sites have volunteer coordinators who are staff members of that site. So Haley Wise works at the Northwest Boys and Girls Club, but she's been fantastic at being a partner with us and making sure things are running smoothly. Same with the Woodland Park Boys and Girls Club. Freeman Williams works there. He's the coordinator for their after-school program, and he has agreed to work with the ReadingPals program to make sure things are running smoothly. Mr. Peterson and Mrs. Johnson. Mr. Peterson is the principal, and Mrs. Johnson is one of the founders of the school, and so they're really dedicated as well. They do a great job at welcoming volunteers. So all of these folks, these are people that you can talk to, and they are your volunteer coordinators. And let's look to see what the volunteer coordinator does. So they choose the kids to be in the program. The site coordinator, the person who works at the site, chooses the child to be in the program. They make sure all the rules are upheld. They make rescheduling whenever you can't make it. They'll reschedule for you. They're really just your contact person. This is your very first step. If you're having an issue, or you need to change your time or day, or you need some advice, or your student needs help with something, this is your very first step. You talk to your volunteer coordinator, and they will try to make it happen. If for some reason they can't, they'll contact me and let me know, and we'll figure that out. Or if they can't figure something out, or if you'd like to just come to me directly, you can do that. I'm the program coordinator. Again, my name's Angela Hutchings, program coordinator, and we recruit in the office. So we're there recruiting volunteers and making sure everyone is trained and doing background screenings. We also make sure that the program is, the rules are being upheld. We send out volunteer surveys because we want to make sure that our volunteers are happy, and we want to see if they feel like the kids are getting help and are improving. I also provide support for the overall program and operation. So like I said, if step one, contacting the volunteer coordinator, isn't helping, then let me know. I can definitely help. And you are going to pass a level 1 background screening and complete this training. You're going to be visiting with your student once a week for an hour until the end of the school year, which is the end of May. And you're going to be addressing all your concerns or questions with your volunteer coordinator or myself. So let's go over mentor standards, which are the rules. First rule, try to be reliable and maintain a regular Try to maintain a regular schedule, go the same day, same time, every week. Please notify the site manager or the volunteer coordinator before you can't visit. So if you're going to be taking a vacation, if you're going on a business trip, or it's spring break or it's finals or whatever it is, if you know that you can't make it or you think there's a possibility you can't make it, please let your volunteer coordinator know. That way we can try to get you a substitute to make up for that hour. You're going to be sharing a room with other reading pairs, so other reading pals are going to be there, and sometimes there's limited space and things can get a little noisy. So we will try our best to eliminate or limit the amount of noise there is and try to utilize the space as best as possible. But please know that a lot of times things can get a little bit loud and we just kind of have to make do. Students have to stay in the room with you. You're going to be that child's supervising adult while you're with them. And so you got to make sure that they aren't running out of the room. And if they are going to be leaving the room with you, wherever you go, you should be with them. So you should be escorting them to the water fountain. You should be escorting them to the restroom. You don't need to enter the restroom. Don't join them into the restroom, but stand outside the door and make sure they're not fooling around. And of course, you want to make sure that they are getting back to where they need to be when you're done with your session with them. Walk them back to a supervisor, an adult, to make sure that they are in the spot where they need to be. There shouldn't be any outside contact with the children outside of the ReadingPals program. If we have a special event, or if United Way is having a special event, of course, that's fine, but there shouldn't be any phone numbers exchanged or any home visits. Please refrain from giving your student gifts or candy. You can bring snacks if you'd like. You can bring healthy snacks, goldfish, crackers, things like that. Try not to bring cookies or candy. That is really kind of distracting to students, along with gifts. Gifts are very distracting. Kids will ask you outright. If you start giving them gifts, they'll ask you outright. And it's not really fair to other volunteers who aren't able to give gifts to their students. It puts unfair pressure on them, and we don't want that to happen. So if you did want to buy something for your student, please buy them a book, get them a book. But again, gifts are, not necessary. And if you're going to bring a snack, please make sure that it is a healthy one. Your time should be one-on-one with your student. Every once in a while, if there's a special event going on or it's a special occasion and maybe you and your student want to do an activity with someone else, or maybe you and another pair, ReadingPals pair, want to get together, that's fine. But primarily it should be a one-on-one friendship. Cell phones and other devices shouldn't be used for personal business. So make sure that you're not answering phone calls or looking at your text messages, because this really shows the student that whatever you're looking at is more important than them. And again, this is your 1 hour of one-on-one time with your student. Now, if you wanted to bring any kind of device or use your phone for a dictionary, a thesaurus, an encyclopedia, or look something up that goes with the book, please feel free to do that. We just don't want you to be distracted looking at your own personal things. But do realize that your student will ask if they can play a game, because that always happens. So if you're going to bring things like that, be prepared to tell them no. You could play a game if you wanted to, if it was an incentive, if you had a goal and they completed the goal and they wanted to play a game. But please make sure that it is an educational game. We want to be spending our time wisely. Please utilize the full hour, because this isn't just a tutoring program. If for some reason the child is having a bad day or is getting really frustrated easily, please don't leave after 20 minutes. A lot of people did this last year. We want to make sure that you're spending the entire hour with your student. So let's talk a little bit about measuring progress. How do we measure progress? Well, the ReadingPals program, we measure progress with scores. So we get these confidential scores from the school board. They give us student grades, FCAT scores, discovery education scores, FAIR scores. These are the things we've asked for in the past. Now, I don't know if any of you are aware of this, but some of these things are not being used this year, so I'm not sure what we'll be asking for this year. But this is kind of how we measure progress. We also get feedback from teachers, parents, and volunteers. So we have some input so that we can make sure that we are being effective. However, we're not allowed to give any of this information away. This is all confidential. It's all de-identified. And so even if we wanted to give you your student's FCAT score, we wouldn't be able to, because we don't have the names connected to the scores. So a lot of times volunteers will want to know, well, how do I know that I'm really making a difference? And it's kind of hard to answer that question. I promise you that you're making a difference. However, a lot of people want something measurable. So I kind of try to encourage volunteers to look at these things. How comfortable is your student around you? If, the very first day he or she was really shy and now they're opening up a little bit. Maybe they're talking more to you about how they're doing, about how school's going. Maybe they smile at you when you arrive. Maybe they take your advice and are listening to you better. These kinds of things we have to pay attention to. Now, I don't want anyone to get discouraged because their student doesn't smile at them when they open the door, because not every child is as expressive as this. But these are some ways that you can measure progress. So let's talk about working with your student, building relationships. You're going to want to build your relationship. Like I said, this isn't just a tutoring program. This is a mentoring and tutoring program. So first off, your very first visit, you're probably going to want to know your student's name. So try to remember how to pronounce your student's name, how to write your student's name, the spelling, because sometimes their names are a little bit different. They might be different from the ones we're used to. So just keep that in mind. And also make sure that they learn your name. You can make it into a game. Every time you go visit, okay, what's my name again? Because a lot of times I'll go and I'll visit the different sites and I'll meet the kids and ask them questions and see how they're liking the program. And they say, oh, it's great. I love my Reading Pal. When are they coming back? And I'll ask them, oh, what's your Reading Pal's name? And they won't know. They'll just shrug. So it's important, I think, for them to remember your name so that they can talk about you and talk about the good experiences they're having. We also want to be understanding. So building a good relationship means being open-minded and understanding of different cultures. Like I said, some of the names of the kids are a little bit different. Their lifestyles might be different too. Their backgrounds might be different. They might look different. They might be different than you. So we want to be understanding of that and try to be aware of our mindsets and our intentions. We also want to create interest. We want to make sure that the kids are having fun, and it's not all work. Building relationships means doing some fun stuff, incentives and things like that. We also want to be building trust. So at first, your student might not really trust you. They might be pushing the boundaries, might ask you for lots of stuff, and you'll have to say no. They'll test you out. They'll test you out a little bit, and saying no is okay. And I think the main part about trust, the main advice I would give if you wanted to build trust is just to do what you say you're going to do. So be consistent, say what you're going to do. If you say that you're going to come every Monday at 4 o'clock, be there every Monday at 4 o'clock, or let someone know. You want to make sure that you're being trustworthy and doing the things that you say you're going to do. So that's a little bit about building relationships. Now let's talk about inspiring growth. We want to make sure that we're praising our students, but we don't want to just praise them without anything to back it up. We want to give them honest praise. We want to praise them often. Anything that they're doing right, we want to make sure that they know that they're doing it right. Some kids are more bashful than others. Some kids are more prideful than others. But regardless, kids like to hear that they're doing a good job. So if they are doing a good job, let them know. Teach discovery. Don't just give the student the answer all the time. Ask them questions that maybe don't have a right or wrong answer. Ask them questions that get them really thinking. If they are trying to sound out a word, don't just give it to them. Allow them to think for themselves and make conclusions. You also want to allow them to learn from their mistakes and encourage them to learn from their mistakes. Try not to get frustrated by their mistakes. And I think this is just reminding them, whenever they do make a mistake. Some of our kids really don't like being wrong. So you can just remind them that you can learn from your mistakes. Also, you can, if you make a mistake while you're reading with your student, you can always own up to it and make sure that they know that you're learning from the mistakes you're making. We're going to want to maintain professionalism. So with that, you want to be a professional volunteer, so to speak. So you want to have good communication with your volunteer coordinator and with myself. You're going to want to, if there's any problems, we can't help you unless you let us know that there's a problem. Most volunteers don't have problems, but whenever there is a problem, we want to know about it so that we can help. It has happened in the past where volunteers have gotten frustrated, but they haven't asked for help. And so after about 4 weeks of being frustrated, they just drop the program and drop the child. We'll talk about that in a little bit, about ending your relationship with a student, but you never want to just drop off the face of the earth. That's really detrimental to the child's self-esteem. So anyway, you really want to have good communication with your volunteer coordinator and your site coordinator. Regulations. You also want to make sure that you're not giving the student privileges that they're not allowed to have. So, for instance, at one of the sites they had vending machines, and normally students aren't allowed to use vending machines. They're not allowed to go into the teacher's lounge. They're not allowed to use vending machines. But volunteers are buying the kids things from the vending machines. And this kind of just breaks boundaries that you don't want to break. You want to make sure that the student still adheres to the rules of the site that they're in. So make sure that we're respecting the rules of these after-school programs and maintaining their regulations. You want to maintain limits as well, boundaries. Saying no is perfectly okay. Teachers show us every day that kids appreciate limits, and although they might not like the answer immediately, the no answer immediately, your relationship and your time will really be best spent if you are able to say no to your student. Also, try to be a good role model. This really is kind of intuitive, I think, for most people, but try to wear clothing that is appropriate. Think back to when you were in school, what's appropriate for school or work attire. It doesn't have to be your Sunday best, but just make sure that you're dressing appropriately. and maintaining professional speech and not cursing and things like that. But I think that's pretty intuitive. So I want to talk a little bit about the curriculum. So we're going to have the student workbook that'll kind of look like this here on the left. This will be the cover. You can put your student's name here. 5 different activities. So this is the 5th activity, but there's 24 other activities, and they could go with any of the books. So none of the books have specific activities for each book. You can use any of these activities for any of the books. Excuse me. So there's 25 different activities, and then at the end, toward the back of the book, there's a word log, and you'll be able to write in new words that you and your student have discovered together and write the definition. There are dictionaries at each site, so you'll be able to look up any of these words if you'd like. There's also a list of take-home books, so you can write in all of the books that you have read with your student and that your student has taken home. Now this will be really great at the end of the year to see all of the books that you read together and be able to reflect on that and celebrate that. But in the meantime, it's also a really good reminder for volunteers for what books you've already read and what books you haven't. Sometimes it can get confusing. There's a lot of books. There's more than 40 titles. So it can get kind of confusing as to which books you read or which books he or she put back and all of that. So this might be a good reminder. And then at the end of the workbook, the very last page has this Sticker It book page. And basically it allows for incentives. So we have a treasure box and a sticker booklet at the site, and you'll have to ask your volunteer coordinator where that is. But basically it allows for 1 sticker each visit that the student has been successful. So again, an incentive is something that the student gets after they've achieved a goal. So they'll get 1 sticker, say the student worked extra hard and achieved a goal, so they get a sticker. Then after 4 stickers, then they get to earn a prize. So they have earned a prize out of the treasure box. So you'll have to figure out where that is at your site. Just ask your volunteer coordinator. And so there should be enough in here for the entire year. And again, at the end of the year, all of these will be filled, or most of them will be filled, and that'll be really fun. A little bit about extra activities. Again, you're going to want to utilize your full hour. So here's some ways that you can utilize the full hour after you're done reading. You could use a brain quest. Brain quest is a little quiz game, or they can ask you questions and you can ask them questions. And it's a fun little educational break. There's also drawing. There's markers and crayons at these sites. There might be site games and activities. Some of the sites have board games and things that you can use if you just ask for them. There might be a special activity going on that you can participate in. Don't ever worry about asking. If you're not welcome to stay, they'll tell you. But most of the places will allow volunteers to stay and do activities if you're able. You can also bring your own activity. We try to give you all of the materials that you need, so you don't really need to, but some volunteers get to know their students and will bring in a little arts and crafts activity or something like that. We also might have special activities. Sometimes our partners give us free activity kits and things like that, so if we get anything like that, we'll be sure to share it with you. So the books are arranged by level and by color, and they sort of look like a library selection, kind of like this. This isn't a real picture of our books, but it sort of looks like this. So they're arranged by color, and we use the Lexile leveling system, which is what the public school system uses. And basically it just tells you what level a book is. And so 100 is the lowest, and there's higher than 700. And so we have broken them down into 4 levels. So level 1 is from 100 to 299, level 2, level 3, and then level 4 is the highest. So level 1 would be the easiest, level 4 would be the highest. And so that will be, they'll be in bins, the books will be in bins, and they'll be color coded. So you'll be able to tell easily that level 1 is the easiest and level 4 is the hardest. So here's some hints for selecting books in reading together. What you could do is you could do various things depending on how hard the book is for your student. So if you're reading a really tough book, the student might have to read individual words by individual words. You could read paragraphs, so you could alternate paragraphs that you read together, or you can create a paragraph number goal by saying, okay, we're going to complete 10 paragraphs by the end of today. You could go by pages. You could read pages alternately. You could create a page number goal. You could go by chapters. So maybe, today we're going to get through 1 chapter. And you can read entire books. So some of our books are really high level, but they're really short and have lots of pictures. Some of them are really low level, but are chapter books. So it really just depends on the book. You might be able to get through an entire book in 1 session, or it could take you a few sessions. But just remember to be patient, help your students sound out difficult words. Try not to give them the answer right away. And remember that ReadingPals is about reading for pleasure. We want to build their skills, but we also want them to start liking reading. A little bit about setting goals. We want to set goals for our students so that they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, so that they know what's expected of them, and then they know what reward they're going to get after they've achieved a goal. I think that's important for anyone, even adults. So we want to make sure that our goals are realistic. If they're not realistic, they might lead to more frustration. We want them to be challenging, though. So, maybe your goal is to read 2 pages. That might be a challenge to some of the students, depending on how hard the book is. You want it to be deadline driven, so have a time or amount of time that you're going to be finished with this goal. You also want it to be specific, so you want to know what it is you want to accomplish. And attainable. You want to make sure that you're able to get to that goal and what the incentive is once it's complete. So a typical session can go many different ways, but here is some advice on how we think that it should probably go. For your first 5 minutes, you'll want to meet and greet, talk to your student, talk about your week. You can ask them about their week. Then the next 5 minutes should be review. So reviewing your last session. What did you guys read last session? What did you learn? What things did you go over? Just so that they're not forgetting, especially if you're still reading the same book. If you're reading the same book, if you're continuing a book from last week, you'll want to refresh on what the book was about last week. And then 25 minutes you can spend actually reading. And again, it depends on whatever you want to do. You can read a page, they can read a page, or if they feel comfortable, they can just read the whole time. Or maybe they really don't want to read, but they can listen, so they can put their head down and listen. Any of these things would work. And then after you're done reading, you're going to want to review. So it's important to review before and review after. And then some incentives. So incentives are pretty important because they allow the child, again, to see the light at the end of the tunnel. This could be arts and crafts, brain quest, card games, drawing, whatever gets them to continue reading with you. And then you're going to want to end your session. So you're going to want to talk about next week. Maybe you're going to be absent. You'll want to talk about that. Celebrate the progress that you made together. Tell them they're doing a great job. What book are they going to read next? What incentive activity can they look forward to next week? And then you'll go ahead and sign out. The volunteer log is very crucial. Our funding to the program depends on me being able to prove to our funders that you are actually visiting and that the student has a certain number of hours with you. And so the only way I can do this is with your volunteer sign in and sign out. So let me show you what that looks like. So this is what that looks like here. I believe you can see that. So, so this is the sign-in sheet. This is where your name will be. It'll be pre-populated here. And then you'll sign here. You'll write the student's name. It's very important I know the student's name. You'll write the time in and the time out. The student's name should be the same every week, but if for some reason you have a substitute student, you'll want to check mark this, my student was absent today, and write the name of the student you did visit with. And that's it. So this will be by day. Every day will have its own sheet. So that's the typical 1-hour session. Let's talk a little bit about behavior. So sometimes behavior looks like something that it's not, or we make assumptions. So so at the tip of the iceberg, maybe you see a bad mood, maybe you see boredom, maybe you see acting out. But what is the problem really? So the student might say, I'm bored, I'm not in the mood to read, this is dumb, I have a headache. But really what your student is saying is that they are frustrated and this is a lot of work. And so what we have to do is acknowledge what they're saying but not give in to what they want to happen, which is to stop reading altogether. Kids aren't skilled at expressing their feelings yet, and so this is what frustration looks like. You might get negative words, you might get silly clowning behavior, but this might mean that your partner just needs a break. What you could do is just let them know, okay, well, why don't we take a minute? Maybe, if they have a headache or their belly hurts or something, let's go get a drink of water together and then we'll come back and start again. How about that? Or how about you put your head down and I'll read for a little while? How about that? Don't ever say, okay, well, I'll just let you go back and we'll try this again next week. That's letting them get what they want and letting them know that there are no boundaries and they can get away with whatever they want. So we want to make sure that we're encouraging them, even when it's difficult, to stick with it. So we're almost done here. Ending a ReadingPals relationship. It's important that we do this correctly. So ReadingPals relationships could end for various reasons. Maybe you have personal reasons or business reasons that you can't volunteer anymore. Maybe the student moves or they are removed from the program due to something out of our control. Or maybe the volunteer doesn't uphold the ReadingPals standards. These are 3 reasons why a ReadingPals relationship would end. And it's important to be sensitive to this. Maybe you are entering your ReadingPals volunteer work with a student who has had a volunteer in the past who had to be removed from the program or departed from the program. So myself and the volunteer coordinator will facilitate the termination process, or if it's less serious than that, we'll just encourage you to have a very last meeting with your student. So you want to make sure that if you do have to leave the program, that you're setting a specific date for your final meeting and you let your student know of this ahead of time. Letting them think it through and have time to adjust, letting them know that it's not their fault and that next visit or a few visits ahead is going to be your very last. It's very important. You want to encourage your student to share their thoughts and feelings. They might feel really awkward about it. Try to be positive and supportive. If it seems appropriate, you can talk to your volunteer coordinator about a replacement reading pal for your student. Try not to make any promises you can't keep, like you'll always keep in touch with them or you'll check in with them, because that gives them false expectations. Just make sure they know it's not their fault and give them some time to think about it and know about it. So that's it for now. We've got a video for you to look at, which has been shared with you. So please take a look at that, and then there's also a quiz. So take a look at the video and go ahead and take the quiz and send it in to my email. And here, I'll type it here. My email address is angela.hutchings@unitedwayncfl.org. Thank you guys so much. If you need anything, have any questions, go ahead and send me an email. Otherwise, I look forward to getting your quiz in the email and starting you up as soon as possible.